versus many meat grinder for levels 3 through 12. Now, originally it was written to start at level 5 or 6. Narratively, that was, in my opinion, was not a very strong choice. The first time I ran this, I had them start at level 1, but honestly, this many years into 5e, ain't nobody really want to be level 1 anymore. So we're just going to start at level 3, which is a pretty good compromise, and kind of take it from there. The setting takes place in a world that is not the world of Toril, or the continent of Faerun, or the Sword Coast. It takes place in a backwater, out of the way, just nondescript prime material plane that is at its core relatively vanilla fantasy. It's still back in like the third age of magic. You've still got elves who are mad at dwarves, and dwarves who are mad at everybody, and elves who live apart from everyone else, except for the occasional adventuring elf that kind of goes out into the world. So this is a younger time, thematically, than D&D. This is closer to a more like old school Silver Age Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings kind of setting, right? So the primary species that is in charge of this region are human beings, and they're human-like allies. Because back in the day, D&D was very much like you are human, or you are humanoid, or you are demi-human, which is kind of rough. But yeah, it doesn't have the sort of pseudo contemporary fantasy feel that a 5th edition campaign would have, right? It's still going to be more of that classic fantasy. The Fae and the Fae Wilds will play heavily into this campaign. They are a known quantity, and they are a feared quantity by these people in this region. So all that being said, I have had campaigns where we play in an earlier age of magic, and there are racial tensions and stuff like that. I really don't want people to lean too hard into that and throw around like fantasy racial slurs like stubby, when you're talking about dwarves, or knife ears when you're talking about elves. It's a slippery slope, right? Like you don't want to be really embracing that too heavily. If your character, as part of their backstory or part of their development, does not like a particular culture or species, that's cool. But also, be respectful and kind of handle it in a more respectful way than just kind of playing a crazed loudmouth bigot. Which I've been playing D&D a long time. I've seen a lot of different characters, so that's just kind of a heads up on that one. But you're totally empowered to kind of lean into that. We are humans and halflings and gnomes, and we're unified against the other cultures and races of the region. They're our neighbors, and we trust them, but only so far, kind of deal. Because that's sort of the general feel of the community here. Is like these are allied peoples, and they work together, but there's still sort of watch out for yourself, watch out for your own kind. That definitely has that vibe there. But the humans, the gnomes, and the halflings are very much intermingled and aligned. The dwarves stick to themselves, and they're very bitter about a war that transpired centuries ago, and they have not gotten over the outcome of that war. They're still very upset about that. The elves, very old school fantasy. They stick to themselves. They control the forest of the Witchwood, and generally non-Fae, non-elves are discouraged to enter the Witchwood, with the exception of the druids of Witchcross, which have a special relationship with the Witchwood and the Fae that live there. There are lizard folk who live in the Black Fens, north of the Witchwood. They also are very insular and keep to themselves. Let's see. There are Goliaths who live up in Red Rock. They migrated from the Northlands to sort of escape oppression from the frost giant jarls that rule that region. So that's kind of what's going on there. The Marth Forest has some fake qualities to it, but generally that is where the majority of like lumber trade comes from. It does not have the severe protection that the Witchwood has. Like nobody goes to the Witchwood to try and get like wood or lumber or any of that. And Douth down here also does a bit of forestry, working very hard to kind of replant what they take. So yeah, the area is relatively rural. The largest city being Denevar, and then Brindle being the second largest, and then everything else is just sort of little trade towns, little specks on the map. Drellin's Ferry sort of is the intersection of many different realms. So there are the Western Wastes, called that because it's deadly and dangerous, and no one that goes there ever comes back, kind of deal. There is a trade road that runs to the west that has been long abandoned. There is a trade road that runs to the north. The roads are just the big red vein looking thing on the map. The trade road that leads to the north leads to the northern kingdoms, kind of Viking themed up there. They kind of are a rough and rowdy bunch. And then you've got like the southern realms here down at the bottom as you cut through the mountains, and that's more of a deserty kind of setting. So you do get trade from both the north and southern kingdoms that come through, and inevitably they hit up Drellin's Ferry and then take the main road all the way to Brindle and Denevar. And then you have goods coming in from other nations that come through the port city of Denevar. And then in order to reach the northern and southern kingdoms, they have to kind of go along the trade route and go to Drellin's Ferry. So Drellin's Ferry is pretty prosperous because of that location. So all right. Now that we kind of established we're in this third age of magic, we're in this rural, backwoods, primaterial world, why don't we introduce, I guess ourselves as players would probably be a good start, because this is a new group. Most of you are new to me, and I'm sure you're probably new to each other. And so we'll go over, you're just going to give some quick introductions to each other. So, Ark, we'll start with you.
Sure, I'm Ark, nice to meet you all. I'm a professional dungeon master just like Crash, though I do not stream. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for 9 years or so, DMing for 7, and having a lot of fun do so. I'm very excited to play a bard, as I do not get to play often.
All right, great. Let's see. I'll just use voice chat to guide us. Barnabas. Who is Barnabas the player? Don't have to volunteer anything that you don't want to, but just going to give us a sense of who we're playing with.
Hello, guys. My name's Ryan, and yes, I play Barnabas, the Artificer Warlock. I've been playing for a few years. Excited to be in my first game with Crash, and yeah, hope to this campaign.
All right, great. Let's see. Haranzo.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm Hiranzo. I guess I've been DMing 13-ish years, probably have DM'd 3 times more than I've played. Like first campaign on, yeah, I grew up in the tiniest town you could probably imagine, so like 2 whole people, entirety of school, interested in D&D, so yeah, started early, I guess.
Nice. All right. Let's see. Jert's player, Sven.
Yeah, so my name is Sven. I'll be playing Jert. I've been playing D&D for 11 years now, and I've been DMing for 3 of those. I've been watching Crash for quite some time, so I'm kind of excited to play. It's nice to meet all you guys.
Sweet. All right. And Orion, who is also Lex.
Sorry, just slightly adjusting volumes.
Yeah, no worries.
My name is Lex, real name Matt. I've been playing D&D getting probably about 3 years at this point. Jumping into 5th edition. Mostly also started DMing my first game, Seafaring campaign, which I saw Crash's videos for Ghost of Saltmarsh, which brought me here. So, yeah. Thanks. First time actually playing with this group as well, so looking forward to it.
All right, great. And yeah, online handle is Crash Jam, and I just go by Crash when I'm online. To the point that when people use my real name in real life, I sometimes get confused. So I've been DMing for, I don't know, 28 years now, something like that. And I've run this campaign before, and I was excited to see this selected in the interest survey for the Saturday game, because I love this campaign. It's really good. Also, there's no seafaring in this campaign, which will be a nice change of pace, because I think every campaign I've run has, ever since I ran this campaign, has had seafaring elements. So nice to be landlocked again. That'll be good.
You've done
And,
Ghosts of Saltmarsh, like Skull and Shackles. That's
Yeah,
both on
actually,
seas.
Two Ghosts of Saltmarsh at the same time, then Skull and Shackles, and then the 2 Odyssey games, which, I mean, literally it's called Odyssey. So yeah, the whole point was to get a big ass boat and start sailing around.
Yeah, first half of the campaign, wear the boat. Second half of the campaign, on the boat.
Yep.
Your Storm
yeah.
King didn't have any seafaring, so that was a.
There was a little bit towards the end, but
I
yeah,
didn't get that
it was
far.
more like a side. It was more like a side quest, like a single chapter arc kind of thing to go out and do some shit in a boat. And boy, did they do some shit in that boat. But yeah, so there's no going in boats in this one, so that's good. Staying on land.
I don't know. I see a bunch of water to the east there.
Timmy, what is beyond the sapphire?
Oh my goodness. Post game
East of Easteros.
post game content for sure. Yeah. So, let's see. Let's go ahead and hit up this thing real quick. We've got experience. We will not be using XP. We're going to be using milestones. It's just easier to plan encounters and control the pacing when it uses milestones. And also, I haven't even done my taxes for this year, so I always feel, especially with a combat-heavy game that gets to the higher levels, that you feel it does feel like you're kind of doing your taxes a little bit, because yeah, calculating the CR versus the XP versus the number of players and how many NPCs helped out, and it's a whole lot to pretty much just get you where you were going to be anyways with milestone. So we're just gonna use milestone for this campaign. It's fine because it's not like you use XP to build magic items anymore, or any of that kind of stuff. All right, so player behavior, GM behavior, all that stuff. Alcohol, everybody is adults. Alcohol and narcotics, everybody's adults. You know what you can handle, that kind of thing. Just like know your limits, kind of deal. I mean, I have had parties get TPK'd because somebody was drunk and thought something would be funny. So if you're to the point of being disruptive or detrimental to the game, I will just kick you from the session. So it has happened before. Sadly, it will probably happen again. But obviously, you're adults. You know what's good for you and what's not. So you do you. Everybody's here to relax and have a good time. Cell phones and digital devices. I mean, again, you know what's good for you. I got really bad ADHD. When I'm a player, I may or may not be doing some other things while I'm also being a player. It's hard to go from running an entire world to only running one character. I understand that. We have a lot of DM players in this group, so like, again, I'm not in your house. I can't see what you're doing. So as long as you're paying attention and your turn, your turn comes up and you're ready to act, you're ready to do your thing. If you are a class that is reaction heavy, like a grave cleric or a rogue or anything that would like have abilities that could save other people's lives, you might want to be paying attention even when it's not your turn in combat, because I've seen people die because somebody was not paying attention and they could have saved with a reaction. So again, everybody's adults. You do you. Whatever helps you stay comfortable and have fun with the game. So that rolls right into player attention. What happens if the player is constantly distracted, so on and so forth. Obviously, I'll talk to you out of game and just say, hey, you seemed really distracted. Everything okay? What's going on? If it does become a problem, eventually they'll say, hey, maybe this just isn't the campaign for you. Maybe it's not a good fit for you. That sort of thing. Disruptive topics. Same with my server. Try to avoid religion, politics, all that kind of stuff. The world's fucking crazy. The big appeal of playing D&D is just to not have to deal with that stuff. So, obviously, if you show up for the session early and other people do, and you want to chat and everything, that's cool. But everybody is here. This is the difference between a game with friends and family and a paid game. Everybody's literally invested in playing this game. Like, literally invested in playing this game. So we're not here to do a lot of table talk, a lot of chatter, a lot of gossip, right? We're here to play Dungeons and Dragons. View this more as joining like a sports ball league, right? Like, it's cool to talk back and forth and whatnot, but we're here to play, right? So there's plenty of time for socialization before and after the session, and our server is big, it's boosted. You want to play some video games with people. You make friendships in this campaign, and you want to get together, play some Magic, a tabletop simulator, whatever. That's cool. Well, there's plenty of opportunities to do all that stuff outside of the game. When we're here to play Dungeons and Dragons. Unannounced dice rolls. Do not think that you are making things faster or easier for me by rolling your checks unprovoked, right? The worst thing you could do a lot of times is roll dice that you don't need to roll, because a lot of times I'm just gonna be like, yeah, you do that thing. You don't have to roll dice to climb a ladder, right? A ladder was built so people could climb it. You know what I'm saying? So don't throw out an athletics check if you don't need to throw out an athletics check. Maybe you're searching a room and the thing in the room is so obvious that anybody could have seen it with their passive perception. You don't have to roll for it. So there's things like that sometimes you just describe what you're doing well enough that I don't even need a check. I'm like, oh yeah, that would work. So hold off on making dice rolls until you are asked to make the dice rolls. That'll make things a lot better. Because yeah, if I didn't ask for dice roll and dice gets rolled, I'm not gonna honor the dice, because I was like, why are you giving me this? I didn't ask for this. Player versus player. Oof. Okay. So, fortunately, we're in Foundry and we have something called Florian's polls. And the polls are amazing. So anytime there is dissent, disagreement, indecision, you guys can throw a poll up. I could throw a poll up, and you guys could just vote what to do next. And we'll always side with the majority vote, and honor true democracy. So that's a good way to kind of cut down on player conflict, I've found. But generally, player versus player, can there be tension between players? Sure. A lot of people are like, I don't allow evil PCs because they cause problems. I find that to be completely untrue. First of all, I don't really go in for the alignment system. And secondly, I've had lots of people play evil PCs that they were the best PCs in the whole campaign. The worst, historically, is the lawful good paladin. Because they bring with them intolerance. Intolerance to a social game is a problem. So everybody communicated on Discord what characters they were making, what builds they were making, that kind of thing. We don't have a lawful good demon hunter and a tiefling fiend warlock in the same party, so that's good. But that's the kind of stuff that, you know, if both players were like, I have to play this character, I'll die on this hill, I have to play this character, then they, as players, need to come up with a reason why the two of them would work together. Because ultimately, this is a collaborative game, and this is a cooperative game, and everybody's got to work together. So I discourage player versus player stealing from each other. Oof. Sometimes stealing from another player can actually be very important and beneficial to the game. Maybe the player has an evil MacGuffin, and everyone knows the evil MacGuffin is making them evil. And maybe it's screwing over the whole party. So they turn to party bard rogue sleight of hand person. They say, "Can you just got to get this item off of them." Sometimes that does happen. This should not be something that you are flippantly doing all the time. You should not be robbing your fellow party members all the time. You should not be maliciously pranking your party members all the time. You should not be mean to your party members. It all comes down to don't shit where you live, right? Like, this is the party that has your back, that is protecting you. You could steal from the whole world, but you should never steal from your party. I feel like any rogue would kind of know that the trust of your allies is worth way more than anything those suckers have on them. And if you really want to steal from the party, you just volunteer to be the quartermaster. And most people are so lazy, they don't even know what treasure they have. If you're the quartermaster, you just skim off the top. So that's the real way to rob your adventuring party without PvP. The last thing I'm going to say about PvP is I run pretty tough game, and one of the things that can make D&D tough is, of course, mind control. So there are a lot of Fae in this version of Red Hand of Doom, so you will be turning on your own allies at times. I like people who are at the table to play. So generally, if you are dominated by a magical effect or compelled by a magical effect, I will continue to allow you to play your character. We'll just head over to secret chat. I'll tell you this is your new motives, this is your new ideals, and you got to play it to the best of your ability. That is your chance to PvP your party. We have some of the deadliest and hardest fights that have ever happened in any campaign I've run is simply when one PC has been turned against the others. So in those moments, that's when PvP is going to be okay. But generally, gunning for each other, stealing from each other, even if it's what your character would do, then we really need to evaluate your character and how they're going to be useful in this campaign. All right, PC secrets. You can most assuredly keep secrets from each other, IRL, and of course in-game. This is a new batch of players. I don't know how good everybody is at metagaming or not metagaming. So, but generally, information that your character has is not, or that you as a player have, is not information that your characters have. So yeah, just kind of keep track of that. Let's see. Player expectations. All right. So what happens when players ruin the fun of other players? Obviously, if someone in the group is making this not fun for you, you should just let me know, because I'm like literally the paid referee for the game, and then I will handle it. I've had to handle some real rough stuff. So, do not sit on your feels and let them fester. So if there's a person at the table or people at the table that are making your experience unpleasant, please let me know. Who knows? They may feel the same way, and we may have to kind of work through that together. Again, this is a game with human beings. This is a collaborative game. This is a cooperative game. If we cannot get along, we cannot play the game, is how that works. Player discomfort. There's going to be things that happen in the game. You can at any point ask for a timeout. You could just say, "Hey, no more of this," and then we will stop. We'll either stop doing that, or we'll take a full-on break. And since we're streaming, we'll like cut stream. We'll talk about what's going on. Whatever the severity is of it, if something is making you uncomfortable, we will stop. life is long, and the longer you live, like, the more trauma you're gonna collect. It doesn't matter if you're the toughest, manliest dude that can get into the salty spittoon, like, automatically, or what, you're gonna have things that upset you. If anything upsets you too much, that you just can't deal with it, you just need to say something. So, people have served in the military, people have had people die, people have been traumatized. So yeah, the D&D, right? It's pretty immersive, and sometimes there's some real fucked up stuff. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, 500 and something pages of super fucked up stuff. So, you know, we're discovering every week things that make us uncomfortable and things that we would wish we had never seen or heard. And that can happen in here. And do not be afraid to just say, hey, now. And if maybe you make it through the session, you just message me and say, hey, this thing that happened in the session, I didn't realize it, but I'm not okay with that stuff. Can we avoid that stuff in the future? And I will go ahead and avoid this stuff in the future. So, putting that out there. Player agency. Okay, so this covers so much stuff, but basically, if you're at the table, I want you to be able to play D&D. You're literally paying to be at the table and play D&D. So if I petrify you at the very beginning of the session, you're not just going to sit there unable to play. We will have either a convenient way for you to get unpetrified, which is less likely, or more likely, you guys will have collected a number of NPC companions or made NPC allies, and they will happen to be in the area or chilling in the background, and you would maybe just assume the role of them until your character gets back to normal. But I wouldn't want you to not be able to play at all. For this reason, a lot of people that play in my my longer campaigns will always have sort of a backup character or just a favorite NPC that they secretly are taking care of just in case they ever have to activate them. So that's kind of my thing for my character's out of commission. My character died and we don't have a way to bring them back. My character's petrified and we don't have a way to undo it. My character was captured and is being held as a prisoner. I don't want to avoid those kind of things because they add risk and excitement to the game. They add realism to our fantasy world. So just keep in mind that there are going to be times where your character is taken from you, and then you do have to kind of play something else. If you don't want to play something else, you're like, you know what, I'm fine. I'll just sit here and watch and listen. That's your right too. If you're salty about what happened to your character and you're just like, I don't feel like playing right now, I'm just gonna hang out and watch and listen. That's okay too. But generally, I do not want to ever have to step in and say, hey, your character wouldn't do that, right? Because people are incredibly complex, and sometimes they do things that don't make any sense, like my friend Will Smith, right? Sometimes, well, it made sense, but it was kind of, you know, some would say that was very out of character, right? They would say, hey, that's not what your character would do. That's what the DM was saying. But it happened. So yeah, I'm not going to go in and say, hey, your character would not do that. I might say, hey, your character swore a bunch of oaths. This is definitely going to break those oaths. I might step in and give you that little pop-up window, that warning. Player agency is not just my responsibility. Player agency is everyone's responsibility. Do not tell other people how to play their characters. Do not tell other people how to play their class. Do not tell other people that the spells they picked suck. Do not tell other people that the action that they decided to take that they felt would be in character was suboptimal, right? This is a tough campaign. There's going to be some stressful fights. You gotta support each other. You can't be tearing each other down, even if they didn't make the play of the game or the right move, because sometimes that's just a better story anyways when things don't go perfectly. But I have had players who literally tell other people, oh, well, I do this to your character and your character does this and things like that. That's no. First of all, you're not the DM, and secondly, you don't get to decide what other people's characters do or even what happens to other people's characters. That is handled through contested dice rolls. It is filtered through me as the DM. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Maybe you got a big bruiser and he's a cinnamon roll and he just likes to pick up people and hug them and stuff. Maybe there's a player who, as a player and as a character, does not want to be touched or hugged all the time. It doesn't matter if you got a 37 on your grapple check. They don't want that to happen. You need to be respectful of that. That's player agency, right? So understand that that's everybody's job as player agency. Game balance and fairness. I don't run a fair game, and I don't run a balanced game, but I do run a fun game, and there is a certain amount of fairness in that I try to be consistent with my unfairness, if that makes any sense. There are going to be times where you might say, well, that's a bullshit call, and that's true. So anytime that you encounter something where you think like, hey man, this was bullshit, like message me about it, we'll talk it out. But everybody's here to play. I maybe don't like grind the whole session to a halt over it, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've been running these kind of games a long time, so generally if you trust me, and this is a big ask, if you trust me, it will be pretty darn fun. But it definitely, nothing you fight, nothing you see, you won't be able to go to Kobold Fight Club and look it up and say, oh, that was a fair fight. It's never going to happen. There's so much homebrew, so much change stuff. People will often say like, that's not how many, like that's not what a goblin can do. That's not how many hit points a goblin would have. Keep in mind that the entries listed for every monster are the commoner of that race. They're the most basic bitch version of that monster. Unless you are all basic bitches, I would assume that you'd want to fight more than just the basic bitch version of something, right? You don't want to Anakin Skywalker a goblin village. You want to fight the goblins, dog choppers, and rowdy wolf riders, and pyromancers. You want to fight the cool shit. So that's where that's coming in. Which also leads into rules debate. I don't dislike rules lawyers. It is okay to tattle on me, on yourself, and on your allies, because ultimately the rules are what is the framework of the game. There is a certain amount of rule of cool, but mostly I try to stick to what's going on with the rules. We have a lot of house rules that everybody has access to, and it's a lot to keep track of. So if if something isn't right, you can feel free to kind of point it out. I only play 5e for a reason. I wanted to play Pathfinder 2 really badly. I wanted to join a World of Darkness game. I wanted to start an Exalted game. I wanted to try all these other rule sets out. I don't deliberately, so that my brain is only set to 5e, so that I generally have a pretty good sense of the rules for 5e. Even then, I screw things up. So if you catch a rule that we're doing wrong, please go ahead and throw it out there, and we'll correct it. We live in the information age. Generally, if there's a contested rule, we can look it up in 30 seconds or less. Much easier at lower level than high level. Higher level game, it feels like 40% of every session is just looking shit up. So that's okay. It's okay to rules lawyer it up. If you are rules lawyering it up and also refusing to bend away from raw, this is probably not the game for you. If you are a person who can't stand the rule of cool, and you see me occasionally letting rule of cool stuff happen, this probably isn't the game for you. Because we will allow rule of cool sometimes, and we do use rules that deviate from raw. So just gonna keep that in mind. Spotlight sharing. We've got 6 people in this group. There were like 14 applicants for this game, so I didn't want to. I wanted as many people as I could. Everybody agreed to run with 6 people. That can be slow, both in combat because of action economy, and then also out of combat if everybody wants to critical roll it up, right? You could see the strain Series 3 on Matt Mercer running. I think he had 8 people for a while. Now he's back down to 7 people. It's so much. These larger groups is rough. The smaller the group, obviously, the more screen time you get, the more spotlight time you get, as it were. Just understand, some of you are probably amazing role players. Again, we have a lot of DMs who are being players for this campaign. Just understand that yes, you finally get to be a player, and you made a very cool character. We're all very excited about it, and you're an amazing role player, and we all love your role playing. but there are also 5 other people that also need time to roleplay and develop their characters as well. So every group generally has 1 or 2 like spotlight hogs, and I will constantly be coaching them off stream or out of game to say, hey, I really love what you're doing, but might need to like, be willing to pass the mic over to other people. Even though you're the face of the party, maybe this person would like a chance to kind of rep the party for this because it's a halfling village, they're a halfling. That's kind of racist, but still, like, you might want to give someone else a chance to kind of step to the front. Let's see. Meta knowledge. All right, this is really tough because we got people that have been playing for decades. We got people that are almost always DMing. You're gonna have meta knowledge. You're gonna see the dungeons super clean. You're gonna hear the distant sound of macaroni and cheese being made, and you're gonna know that there's gelatinous cubes in the area. How stupid do you have to be, like to role play to not be meta knowledging, right? Like, so if you are a person who likes to meta, this is what you do. You take a shitload of knowledge skills, and you take a background that would excuse your behavior. There's one from Acquisition Incorporated called Scion of the Hero or something like that, where your parents were famous adventurers. So you take the precautions to kind of excuse a lot of your meta knowledge. I'm going to be like, yeah, you probably know about this. Or I would at least allow like an arcana check or a nature check or a history check or whatever, so that you could kind of like, confirm like, my character would know this. Sometimes encounters, I think, are built around player meta without the writers even realizing it. So a certain amount of meta knowledge makes sense. Your characters live in this fantasy world. So to say that they've never heard of X or never heard of Y, that's kind of a stretch, unless it's for the setting. So, for example, in this setting, goblins are, for the most part, unheard of, right? So, it would not make sense for you guys to all know goblin, to all know about goblins, because generally in this region of the world, goblins have not really been encountered yet, historically. They've run into orcs. There was a whole war against orcs centuries ago, wiped out the Kingdom of Rest, and all that kind of stuff. But for meta knowledge in that case, yeah, you wouldn't really know too much about goblins. Maybe your character has history and a background in history, so they might know a little bit more about that. Maybe they are from the Feywild or know about the Feywild, so they might know about goblins from that, because the recent changes to the 5th Age of Magic, all goblins are fey creatures now. A lot of games ran like that anyways, but I thought that was kind of an interesting design choice. So yeah, meta knowledge. Where I get upset with meta knowledge is everybody knows how that a goblin has, I think it's 7 hit points or whatever. If you're not rolling for HP. Everybody knows the armor class of a bugbear. Everybody knows that a hobgoblin's got an armor class of 18, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So leaning so hard on your meta knowledge that you can't just enjoy the game, that the game, just becomes like a numbers game for you. You might want to ease off on that meta knowledge. But the fact that your characters do live in a fantasy world and you have an assortment of knowledge skills that you could have given your character to know even more about the world, when in doubt, just ask me, would my character know this? Or set yourself up for success based on the fact that my character is X and his background is Y and we're in Z. Would I know this? Like, yeah, basically the reset technique. So just kind of set yourself up for success there. Min-maxing. Here's the thing. None of the characters look super min-maxed to me. It's very easy to break a sandbox game. Is it fun to break a sandbox game? For a little while. But generally, it's an organic system. If I see that one character is equivalent to the other 5 characters, I will probably just start adjusting encounters so that that one character always has their own mid-boss to fight, like every combat, so that the rest of the party can actually play Dungeons & Dragons. because the campaign cannot devolve into 5 dudes following one strong dude around to cheer him on while one strong dude does all the work. I am going to adjust and adapt the encounters and the campaign to match your level of strength and your level of skill. I've had plenty of groups that were, what's the nicest way to say this? Fucking terrible at Dungeons and Dragons. So I very much just started running less powerful monsters, dumber monsters, easier fights. And we just kind of moved the focus away from the things that they were bad at, and moved it into the areas that they really enjoyed and they were good at. That's not to say that we didn't have those things, because it is good to build those skills. But I definitely didn't say, oh, well, I'm going to keep running this the way it is, and I guess you're all just going to fucking TPK every week. Like, that's, yeah. Again, it's a communal game. It's a collaborative game. The DM is also there collaborating and working together with the group. So all I'm saying about min-maxing is I'll counterbalance against any amount of min-maxing to try and make sure that everybody at the table is still having fun. So that's basically where that goes. Character fit in the party. Again, the lawful good and tolerant paladin, the super evil murdering babies in front of everybody character, the edgelord loner that doesn't want to be an adventurer and everyone has to roll 6 persuasion checks just to get him to leave the fucking tavern. These are trash characters. They're not. They sound cool, and the tropes are really cool in like an anime or a movie or a book, but not in a game where 6 people have to work together. You really can't get away with these kind of builds in those settings. You want to be the edgelord loner? You can be like, yeah, there's no way I'd ever travel with a pack. I'm a lone wolf. And then the party be like, cool, but do you want to go check out the graveyard anyways? And they'll be like, I guess so. And then we're done. You've established what a cool edgelord you are. You're a fucking lone wolf, whatever. And now we can play some real Dungeons and Dragons. Compromise your fucking values and have fun with your friends. That's what sometimes has to happen in Dungeons and Dragons. Just how it is. Murder hobos. I have had games where the entire party is murder hobos. Allegedly, I was in such a game as a player, Rime of the Frostmaiden. Sometimes that's just how it is. If this ends up being a murder hobos game and you are all okay with that, I guess it's a murder hobos game. But if only 1 or 2 of you are murder hoboing and ruining the fun for everyone else, we will need to correct that behavior and get everybody back in line. Talk about why you want to be a murder hobo when everybody else wants to actually enjoy the narrative and explore the plot and all that jazz. All right. So, do you guys have any player pet peeves that you need to put out, or any questions about any of the thing that I just talked about?
I do have one.
Okay.
For player versus player.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that the edgelord, may have to write six persuasion checks in order to get him to move. Would you, in your games, consider even allowing someone to roll? For example, I'm playing the bard.
Right.
Am I even allowed to roll the persuasion check against another PC? I'd assume not.
Oh, in this case, sorry. I'm also referring back to the point about player agency, right? So the player of the edgelord might create their own mini game for the party and say, I don't know, guys, I might need to be persuaded, and then you guys roll, and then they say, okay, that was pretty good, and then they go. But you couldn't, even if you were an eloquence bard and you were dropping a 30+ persuasion, you could never use that to force your teammates to do something that they would not want to do.
Right.
And then the use of magical compulsion on your teammates would definitely be a violation of PvP.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. But yeah, it happens a lot where people, especially roleplay heavy people, will be like, ooh, I'm not sure, guys. I might go over there, try to make out with the big bad evil person. Somebody might want to stop me, and then they're just kind of hoping that somebody kind of takes the bait and role plays with them, and then they might say, oh, no, I need that persuasion check. Yeah. So a lot of times DM players do stuff like that because they're secretly DMing. They think they're doing some mini DMing there. We joke around about this a lot in my Curse of Strahd game because I play like a damn peer, and everyone knows that they're, a Dampier. But we kind of have like the ongoing joke of like, oh, like Tarna does this obviously vampire thing, and then somebody will be like, insight, you know, that kind of thing, and then I'll do like a performance to pretend I'm not doing a vampire thing or whatever. So yeah, in the end, it's all just tools to help with you know, with role playing. It's just to enhance the role playing. But you can never use your skills in that manner. And then the other examples we gave of grappling someone that didn't want to be grappled and things like that, you got to respect consent when you're doing group activities. So, and forcibly persuading someone is the same as forcibly grappling someone. There's a reason why a lot of cultures think enchantment charm is the most evil of the 9 schools of magic. So, all
Thank
right.
you.
And yeah, any other player questions or pet
I have
peeves?
a
Yeah.
few.
Okay.
Just more setting questions, 2 of them. As you said, you know, I mean, obviously we know, like, as players, the Feywild is going to be a big part of this.
Mhm.
What kind of, you know, and you kind of went over the metagaming aspect a little bit, but, like, what level does us as adventurers, normal people, kind of know about the Feywild? And also, like, I guess for player reference, what kind of material are we talking about? Alice in Wonderland-y, Dresden-esque, or, like, theme?
Yeah. So this is definitely more of a Dresden-esque, less of a Alice in Wonderland, Wild Beyond the Witchlight style, right? That's more of a whimsical. This is more of a deadly, sinister Feywild. There are even elements of the Feywild Underdark, you know, kind of in here as well. So yeah, this is definitely. Yeah, and they do in both the whimsical version and the non-whimsical version of the Feywild in the 5e cosmology. They do have the course of winter and the course of summer, and all that jazz. But yeah, this is definitely more of a Dresden grim fairy tales kind of Fey wild influence. Now, as far as like what would your characters know? Yes, so a level 1 character is obviously in every way better than a normal person. They're born with the blood of heroes. They're able to shrug off wounds that would kill a normal person. They're able to heal very quickly. They rarely ever get sick. So they're already heroes from the get-go genetically, right? And then level 3 implies that you did get out and do some stuff, and people did provide some backstories. So like Sven, his backstory is literally, I was lost in the Feywild. So Sven would definitely know about goblins and possibly have learned the goblin language. But someone else who has just like worked in one of the towns or cities their whole life, maybe occasionally done some patrols around Marth Forest and things like that. Maybe you grew up in Cross and you live like, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, you probably know Sylvan. If you're a well-educated person, you probably realize that knowing like Dwarven and Elven and Sylvan would probably be useful because of those are your neighbors essentially. Maybe Giant because of the Goliaths of Red Rock. If you were a druid, right, you might have heard about goblins and you might have thought that, hey, this sounds like kind of dangerous, and you might have learned about their language. So that's another person that would be probably a person that would know goblin. It's one of those things you just gotta ask yourself. It is essentially a shadow threat, right?
Yeah,
A
boogeyman
phantom
kinda.
menace. Yeah, a phantom menace, if you would. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah, you would be in this setting, I think, more likely to know demonic or infernal than you would be to know goblin. Just because those are known quantities to these people, and Sylvan is a known quantity to these people because of, you know, the different Fey races they've met with. But the goblins themselves, keep in mind that the Feywild sort of overlays and is also to the side of the prime material. So, wherever the goblins live in the Feywild is obviously far from here. So their intrusion into this area would also, in a way, be an intrusion into the Fey portion of this world as well. So yeah, but basically I would say Sven and Layla for sure would be people that would have at least heard about goblins, goblinoids, and what they get up to, and have opportunities to learn the languages. Everybody else, I just don't know, based on the backstories that I read, if you would really have had a legitimate reason to kind of know about goblins and their languages, and that's okay, because part of what makes for a good invasion story, right, is that they are an alien force, right? You don't necessarily know their culture and their language. They're an unknown enemy that has come into your lands. So it can sort of make for a stronger story to not always know like everything about your enemy right away. Of course,
Really
I
good
did.
video game, Ghost of Tsushima, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I ran Storm King's Thunder, and not a single one of those motherfuckers took Giant as a language.
Oh my god.
And I was like, guys, you're killing me. It's literally like the Giant campaign. No one took it. It's the Forgotten Realms. You could have taken it at community college. Like, what the hell? Yeah. Yeah. Well,
God damn it.
well, yeah. I mean, we did have to have the NPC show up, who was the DM NPC for the campaign, and he was a cool one too. But still, and then he had to teach them Giant, so we had to basically spend 30 days of during their travel of learning the fucking language, and that was actually kind of cool though, because by the end of the campaign, they were champions of the Giant people. As well as feared enemies of the Giant people, and they learned the language of their enemy as they went. And of course, a lot of people immediately went to like 13th Warrior and like the rapid language gain montage and all that jazz. So there was some good elements, but yeah, for all of you to have knowledge of goblins and language right out the bat, that would be pretty meta, based on this rural setting and its place in the world and its connection to the goblins. Like, they're just not really a known factor. Even those of you, Sven and Layla, Jert and Layla, you would have heard about them as sort of like, yeah, like a Fey boogeyman. Like, you don't want to fuck with these guys, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, sorry.
Hmm?
I just wanted to say, your resident bard does has comprehend languages, so don't be too silent.
And don't forget, this is for someone who plays a bard frequently, or you want to grab that tongues. You want to grab that tongues, because all them good suggestion spells and all that don't do shit if they can't understand the suggestion. So, tongues is a very strong pick. A lot of people think tongues is a dumb spell, but in a campaign where languages are actually used, it's pretty damn good. So,
spells. Yeah, I guess that's something to ask about, because that kind of depends world to world. This isn't Forgotten Realms. How rare we want to make like finding costly spell components? It's going to be like quest situation, just be in the right place to buy it, or like big cities basically would always have, like, as long as you can afford it, for your like stuff that has cost.
Great question. Because this is the third age of magic, and it was really hard to be a wizard back then. Honestly, it's always been kind of hard. That's why wizards get the big dick payoff at high levels. There is a single wizard who lives in Drellin's Ferry, and he is in the Union. So he will try to buy, sell, and trade spells with you if possible. I think your next best bet is Brindle. Elsir has a totally not evil wizard that lives there, and then Denivar. You might have some luck in Witchcross with the actual witches that live there, assuming that they have like ritual books and stuff like that. But yeah, not every town is going to have spells and items for sale, or even the materials you need.
Kind of location.
My recommendation is, when you are choosing between a spell focus or component pouch, I don't want to punish people who want that flavor of component pouch. So assuming you have time, you can go and like scavenger hunt this shit without having to make checks or anything. Unless it has a listed cost, it is assumed that you could just scavenge it up, right? You grab some yarn from here. You're like a little klepto when you're a material components caster, right? You're like a little magpie kid that's just like, oh shit, table salt? Yeah, I'm gonna need some of that. And you're just kind of grabbing it as you go and constantly filling your component pouch up. So back in the day, before spell focuses, components was a huge part of it. I still remember reading a novel, a D&D novel, and this wizard had nothing. He was taken prisoner, but he was in a cave, right? And so, like, he grabs some bat poop, and then he, like, later was able to get, like, just a tiny bit of, like, sulfur from a sulfurous spring. And now he got a fireball, and you're, like, reading it, and you're getting excited because you're a huge nerd, and you know that he's getting the ingredients to, you know, the components to a fireball. So, like, yeah, component casting is very fun, very flavorful, very thematic. I think Caleb from Series 2 Critical Role, he did a great job of making it super sexy to be a component-based caster instead of just a focus-based caster. If you don't want to worry about all that shit, you know, you just say that you have just treat your component pouch the same way that somebody else would treat their arcane focus, because even arcane focus users still need to have any material ingredient that has a listed cost. So it really in 5e, it's all just kind of the same at the end of the day. So does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You know, I just got some ones that have some weird, like, costly components, like, you know, like the Tasha spells. It's like 200 gold acorn. It's like,
Okay. So yeah. With that, basically you, and this has been coming up because we switched from the conjure spells to the summon spells, and I think it's great.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
been,
They're
it's
so
been,
much easier.
It's just so much better. In Curse of Strahd, my Dampier has held on to a skull. She got a very nice skull, and then she is working on getting it into a gilded skull, so she'll have that component to summon undead later. So it could also just be like, you could sort of craft these things yourself, right? So yeah, exactly. You could be like, hey, I'm going to put 20 gold towards my 200 gold acorn, kind of thing. As you're embellishing it. You're like meticulously hand carving arcane runes into this this little acorn, that kind of stuff. So there's, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
and I promise, my final question. I'm sorry.
That's what it does. This is what it's for. Just get all this out there.
And this is just, I guess, because I haven't ever noticed this. How do you, as a DM, tend to handle, like, passive skills? Are we going full Jeremy Crawford? That's the minimum you can roll, or like just like, you know, using it to like fact check things to tell people stuff without them rolling?
All right. So, in Paradise Vale Season 1, there was a character who was, oh my gosh. I can't even remember his name now when I think about it. I only remember his legacy. But basically, he was like, it was a dungeon. There was a lot of dungeons that they would go in. And he's like, I'm never getting screwed over in a dungeon again. I will see anything. I will see everything. And they made the most incredible build. I think their passive perception was like a 28 or something like that.
Jesus.
They were like, I will never miss out on anything. Eventually, they did die. They got an axe in the face from an orc, and it killed them. And everyone was like, did you see that coming? Hey. Yeah. But I was like, okay, well, I guess we just won't have it, you know, I guess you just know about every trap and every secret door, and we'll just focus on other areas of play. You know, it's kind of like having a super ranger in the party. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about how you super rangered this and got everybody there in record time, and you know, kept everybody from, you know, no, it's okay. It's like, that's what you built around. And so it's like, okay, well, yeah, you know, you led everybody expertly there. You avoided these random encounters, or you could ambush these random encounters. Like, we just kind of adapt to what's going on. As far as like Jeremy Croftering it, in Foundry, I just have to open up party resources, and it tells me all of your guys' stuff. So, you know, I can just look and see like, oh, somebody would have noticed this, and that kind of thing. So I do use, for the most part, I will use passive skills out of combat or out of initiative. If you are an initiative, you are stressed, right? And that's when RNGesus can come and ruin your day. So you might always have like this amazing athletics skill. You might, and I'm like, your athletics is like a 22 passive. I don't need to see if you can swim across the river or not. It's fine. I don't need to see if you could lift this rock and move it out of the way of the road. You're really strong. Eventually you'll do it. I played D&D back when they had take 10, take 20. You know what I'm saying? Like, who fucking cares? In combat, though, you need to move that rock. You're gonna have to roll to move that rock, because if you don't move the rock, that's incredibly impactful to everything that's happening in the fight and in the world right now. So that's where it turns off. Like, you don't get to use your passives during initiative. All right. So any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section. I'll try to go quick because I want us to, jump in and actually play some D&D this morning. But it's very important. Session 0, I think, is very important for getting all these expectations out of the way and kind of letting people know what's going on. So everybody familiar with my DM style? I mentioned it a little bit earlier, what my DM style is like. I mentioned in the ad how I handle player absences, so everybody knows about that. Player narrative authority. Okay, so I do not like, as the DM, to be talked over, and I definitely don't like backseat DMing. Sometimes people get very excited, and they will say, and then this happens, and then we'll all laugh, and we'll think it's really funny, and then, if the mood is cool and everybody's like, that's definitely what happened, and the character in question says, yeah, that's totally what would happen. Sure, okay, let's, again, we're collaboratively, playing this game. What I might do sometimes, though, is kind of hit the ball back to you, right? So I'll say, you're from Terrelton. Like, tell us about your favorite tavern in Terrelton, because there's no information listed, I don't think, for Terrelton's Tavern. And then you are going to invent on the spot Terrelton's Tavern and tell us about it. And now it's real and it's a part of the world. So I will do stuff like that as far as like involving the players in the narrative of the world. When the opportunity strikes. If you are not comfortable with that kind of stuff, you could just say, I really don't know. Do you just, do you have one ready, that kind of thing? That's fine too, because again, everybody's here to have fun. So if you feel like you're put on the spot for that kind of stuff, you can definitely say, hey, not really comfortable with that. But if you get the tennis ball hits you and you just want to just fucking spike it, that's fine. We'll make it work. We're all adults, right? We're not 12-year-olds playing D&D at lunch, so I can trust you guys when I say, tell me about the tavern in Terrelton, and you don't say, well, actually, it's where my rich MILF sugar mama cougar lives. She's the owner, and she owes me 3,000 gold for sweet lovin's. And I'm glad you asked, DM, because that's where we're going to go and get 3,000 gold that she owes me. Obviously, that's not at all what I was asking you when I asked about your favorite tavern in the city. So yeah, don't use the narrative control as a means to try to game the system. Again, I don't think anybody would do that, but just throwing that out there. Pet peeves. I think I've already mentioned my pet peeves in the ad for the game. I just want everybody to work together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to work together. It's a collaborative game. If you wanted to play D&D by yourself, there's so many video games, and there's so many cool role-playing games and MMOs that are more fun by yourself. You could just go do that. You came here because you wanted, and you might not realize this. You came here because you wanted to be involved with other human beings. I know it's disgusting, but I don't think you'd be playing D&D unless you really wanted to be involved with other people, because that is the core of the D&D experience, is playing D&D with other people. So if you are hardcore main character syndrome, always wanting to go the opposite direction of the other 5 players, always feeling like they're picking stuff that you don't want to do, it might be a you thing. Is what I'm trying to say. So the main goal here is that we all work together to tell a really cool story. That's what we're doing. All right. Ethic, concerns, and topics. It's 2022. Be respectful of people. Everybody's coming from all tropes of life, all countries, all orientations, all races, all cultures. Everybody's here just to enjoy D&D, play a game, have fun, that sort of thing. if in the game an NPC hits on your character and you're like, my character / me does not want any flirting with NPCs. All right, there's no flirt with NPCs. You're good for the rest of the campaign. If your character is a male character and a male NPC flirts with you, and you're like, hey, my character appreciates but does not reciprocate, and then you say, hey, that's enough of that. It's like, okay, that doesn't happen. You don't have to get super upset about it. You don't have to make a big deal about it. You know, again, this is a story that's being told collaboratively. So if anything makes you uncomfortable, as mentioned earlier, you don't have to, don't have to do that, but also be respectful of it. And also, if you aren't feeling respected, that's something that you need to talk to me about. So make sure that, that's taken care of. We already talked about fantasy racism, how it can mirror real racism. So we try to avoid that. I do allow slavery in my games because I believe that slavery is a very strong definition of someone being evil. I think that's an evil thing. In a game with the 9 alignment system and how flawed it is and how hard it is to tell what is good and evil, I think a pretty uniform thing is slavery. I also think maybe eating babies is probably pretty bad. Well, I mean, I guess if the baby's still alive. Depends on the culture on the other. And anyways, so I do allow slavery in my games. If that is a trope that is upsetting to you, please let me know. We will downplay it. I don't think I would remove it though, because before hobgoblins got their softer 5e treatment, they were very militaristic and very practical. And very evil, very lawful evil. And one of the things that lawful evil cultures love is slaves. So they are here, they're going to be here to take slaves. Like, that's part of what makes them the bad guys. So that is the thing that's going to be in the game. Let's see. One thing that the hobgoblins are not going to do, even off camera, is life is hard and things are bad. And this isn't Game of Thrones, so yeah, there's not gonna be any rape or any of that going on, even implied or even off camera. So it's just not an element that I'm gonna explore in the game and not gonna allow in the game. And let's see. So that's the sensitive stuff. I guess the other thing I'm supposed to talk about is character accents. Character accents are super fun. If you have a character accent and it is and the other players are uncomfortable with it because it is maybe a little too borderline racist maybe, or just very disrespectful to the source culture for your accent, you're going to be asked to use a different accent. I mean, that's just what it is. So I've been in the games where someone's like, I made this cool monk, and then they used like the very racist, like Chinaman accent for the whole adventure, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty painful. So yeah, that's another thing we kind of want to step away from. All right, anybody else have any ethic concerns or topics that I didn't bring up? Nope. All right, cool. So we already did character creation. We already talked about races and classes. Character lifestyle. All right. So Matt Mercer, amazing DM. One thing that Matt Mercer does that I cannot stand is he charges rich people for food. Like, give me a fucking break. After your first adventure, you're more rich than most people in town. Like, no one gives a shit if it costs 1 copper or 13 silver for a glass of ale. The only time that you're really going to need to worry about the cost of things is if you make the mistake of asking me how much your food and lodgings cost, or if it's high enough that I feel like mentioning it for your current wealth, right? So if you were first level characters, I would definitely be like, oh yeah, it's 3 gold a night to stay at this inn. Oh, this costs so much money, because that sets you up to feel better about getting money and not being poor anymore. But by level 3, I guess you're still pretty broke. Actually, you're probably more broke than level 1 because you have the same starting stuff in your 3rd level. Anyways, it's a problem that'll solve itself pretty quick. So don't stress out like, oh, Crash didn't charge me for these scrambled eggs. Like, we got more important stuff to do. Like just bank error in your favor, I guess. Get some free scrambled eggs. The same thing, I guess, could apply to ammunition. If you are a ranged character and you shooty the bow and you shooty all those arrows, I would love nothing more than to have the attention span to punish you for playing a ranged character and taking the easy way out. But I don't want to keep track of all that stuff. Fortunately, Foundry does keep track of all that stuff. So just buy your ammunition when you're in town. All towns sell ammunition. You don't ever have to ask. All the basic bitch ammunition is available. Use quick insert, find it, drag it onto your character sheet, refill the ones that you already have, whatever. What if we're not near a town and I'm running low on arrows? Can I get arrows back during a fight? If you want to get arrows back during a fight, assume that you fired 10 arrows, 5 of them are recoverable. The end. The best thing you could ever do if you're a ranged character is just take Tools Woodworking or Tools Bow or Fletcher, and then I'll never ask you about arrows ever again, because I will assume that you're just building all your own arrows, and I'll never ask you to pay for them. I'll never ask you how many arrows you have. We'll just assume that you always have enough arrows. Again, there are skills that seem worthless on the surface, but are actually pretty good in certain instances, like having woodworking tools and just, making all your own arrows. Hey, we're done. What else? Character lifestyle. If you want a better lifestyle, you could certainly have one. And we do have in our homebrew world document that you can get extra stats essentially for living a better life, for having a more comfortable long rest. So look into that, and if you do want to pay that premium to have a better rest or whatever, definitely do that. Of course, ask if an area can even support that level of lifestyle. Any questions about character lifestyles, paying for fiddly bits or any of that kind of stuff?
I'm really quickly curious. Oh, go ahead. I think I heard somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we use Xanathar's downtime for that. So you just do pit fighting to get super rich, or anything else for role playing and not getting rich, I guess. So yeah, this campaign will have downtime, but this campaign also has a campaign timer. So as days are passing, you are you're basically like in danger of events happening in certain places, and you're gonna miss them, or things like that. So there'll be more downtime, I believe, towards the beginning of the campaign, and then less and less as you go. But when a downtime opportunity presents itself, I'll just say, hey, this would be an opportunity for some downtime if you want to take it. Or you guys could say, we really need some downtime, and we'll try to figure out a way to do that. But a lot of this campaign, once it starts moving, it does not stop. That's kind of a complaint some people have had about it, is that the momentum of it eventually is just very, very fast. Like, you just can't afford to take like downtime or a big rest. In the beginning, though, when life is still slow and safe and calm, there'll be opportunities for that. So does that answer the downtime question?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
My question quick.
Yeah?
Was I have Song of Rest, I have cooking, I plan to do some stuff. Do you want me to go get ingredients such as hard cuts, or would you rather me just say he grabbed these things and when we're out in the wild he makes X thing? And
Yeah, I kind of equate like cooking tools to having like the herbs and spices and all that you need, or that you kind of see like, yo, you're going down the road and you're like, look at that wild rosemary, and you just go and grab some off the side of the road as you're traveling. Very much like the spellcaster component pouch, I would assume that you're sort of keeping your supplies in order. Now, role-playing and cutscenes and all that, that would be, hey, we killed some giant spiders. Let's cook up them giant spiders because they taste like, like crabs. This could be delicious. Eating the monsters you kill, things like that. You have a very skilled ranger in the party, so I will assume that you will always have meat and tubers and mushrooms and stuff to cook. So that's not even going to be an issue.
For
Hell yeah.
sure. And how much does everyone like cooking cutscenes, or at least in the way of resting cutscenes? Because I have no shortage of recipes and descriptions of food or / questions to ask party members while we're resting.
I mean,
Because
I'm into it. I
I'm here for
listen
it,
to
my guy.
yeah.
So we're
That's-
expecting like Monster Hunter cutscenes.
you can expect that from my character, yeah. But like something I wanted to know more than anything was, from everything I've heard of this campaign, it might sound like we need some time to rest during spots where a short rest would go by, nothing would happen.
Mhm.
But it sounds like we might need some therapy, and my character might be able to provide that with food and questions and a song of rest and all of that. So if your guys are more comfortable with it, I'll try to do more of those cutscenes. If not, I'll cut down on them. Just let me know.
So that actually would skip us ahead just a little bit. There is, so we did a year and a half of Giphy Glyphs, and it was fun, but it was also a lot. It was very, very crunchy. There was a lot to do. So let me take you over to this camping thing real quick. So they did have these rules for camping, which were kind of cool. And this campaign is going to have a lot of traveling. You do have a super ranger on in the party, so the traveling will not be nearly as dangerous as it would be. Which again, don't be upset. That's good. You're bringing something very useful to the party. This is something that rangers, I don't think, brag about enough. There are things that rangers can do that other classes can't do, and one of those things is make the exploration part of it a lot more enjoyable. So with the camping, basically you have camp activities that you could do, and those camp activities can actually provide mechanical benefits in game. So you can get back inspiration points, you can get back hit dice, all that kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested in using the camping rules, we certainly can. For long distance travel, rather than do a bunch of camping scenes and do a bunch of random encounters and all that, we will eventually, for longer travel, like going from like one side of the map to the other, or going like 100 miles or something like that, we're going to use the campfire rules by Abyssal Brews. It's a fantastic supplement for travel. And it also provides mechanical bonuses for successfully traveling overland. So, yeah. If this camping in, the Giphy Glyph camping ends up being like too tedious, or you guys just aren't interested in it, we obviously don't have to use it. But if you wanted to give it a try for the first couple times that you have to camp out in the wilderness, just to kind of get a sense for how it works, it can be pretty fun, and it can be a good way to build the story of what your character brings to the party and all that, and how they interface with the rest of the party. So
I use this in my games, so
yeah,
not a huge issue for me, and I can maybe help. But no, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So hold on, I'm gonna
That sounds
Che-
fun.
change out the music again. All right. So let's see. That brings us to any other questions about lifestyle? All right. So obviously in this campaign, I gave everybody a bonus feat at level 1. You're going to get another feat when you hit level 4. A feat on a low-level character, in my opinion, basically makes them one level higher than they would normally be in a lot of instances, depending on the feat. Some of you took an ASI, a 2-point ASI improvement instead of a feat. That's totally okay too. We did a group rolled array, and it was not super stellar, so I could understand why you guys would want to boost some stats instead of getting a feat. Mounts. I allow mounts, but much like all companion creatures, they will just share your initiative. I don't want to have them on a separate initiative clogging up the initiative tracker. So if you have a mount, you bring it to combat. I will tell you that mounts, pets, familiars, they will die in this campaign. There are some monsters in this campaign that are heavy hitters with AoE. You're gonna burn through a lot of mounts. You can name every single one Roach if you want, but you're gonna burn through a lot of them. You're gonna burn through animal companions if you're not careful.
Oh, perfect. As the base heart.
Yeah. Well, that's more like a part of your character, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I was actually going to bring that up because I think in the character guide it mentions that the companion goes during the beast heart's turn. So I was wondering how you want to handle that, because there'll be a lot of like hopscotching between.
Well, basically, your turn just represents a shitload of action economy, and you have to decide how to spend it. You can't switch back and forth. You can't start to move with your cat, then move with yourself, then attack with your cat. I want you to commit to my cat goes, then I go, or I go and then my cat goes.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Same way with familiar. I mean, if you're really good at abusing a familiar, like, you know what I'm talking about. Even, you know, the familiar shares your initiative. Oh, my familiar gives me the help action. And then you just have advantage to everything you do ever. Like, how does it help you climb a ladder? It's pulling on my shirt and it's lifting me up by my, it's telling me which ladder to grab. I already said you wouldn't roll a check for a ladder, but yeah, as long as you bullshit it hard enough, I guess anything worse than Dungeons and Dragons. So with mounts, they get dodge, dash, and disengage. That's their action economy. But they do also get a move. So, and then on your turn, when you're riding a mount, you can move with your mount. Someone would say, that means that a mount makes you move really fast. And now you've figured it out. Yes, mounts make you move very fast. That is why people use mounts. So mounts are good. They're very good, especially on bigger maps. But mounts can die. Just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Any other questions about mounts, companions, or feats?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Inspiration in my game, you can have up to 3 points of inspiration. I offer 1 point of inspiration at the beginning of every session to sum up what happened last time. We also do something called a factspiration, where one person can volunteer some information about their characters, that we might not know, or specifically that we don't know, so that we can kind of learn a little bit more about that character. This is meta knowledge, so if you're sharing that Layla collects porcelain babies, no one in the game knows that Layla collects porcelain babies. Only we know that Layla collects porcelain babies, but it's a fun fact to kind of share. And then you get a bardic inspiration die equivalent to your level that lasts the entire session. So at any point you can kind of throw that out. So I thought it was a pretty fun thing to kind of help people develop their characters a little bit more and make up fun stuff about their characters. Spending inspiration, I'm pretty vanilla. You announce that you're using inspiration before a roll, and you get advantage. That's it. I don't have a special chart, like a Chuck E. Cheese prize board, where you can spend inspiration on different things, and you save up your inspiration to buy a big thing. I don't have any of that shit. Everybody has nights where they can't roll for shit. Everybody has those rolls where it's the third death save or the second save to avoid being petrified. Those are the times when you should probably be using your DM inspiration. So yeah, that's all the DM inspiration is for. I have found that by increasing the amount that you can carry to 3, people are more likely to use their inspiration. So that's cool. If somebody ever does something so badass that all of us are just grabbing our cheeks and we're going, oh dang, what the fuck? You could certainly say, oh my god, can they get an inspiration for that? But sort of like the slow clap, right? You're gonna know when the right time is to suggest that somebody gets it. Don't be that guy that tries to slow clap for everything, right? Don't just be like, oh man, one of us raised their voice a little. They should probably get an inspiration for that one. I mean, that's pretty good, right? No, you'll know it. You'll know when something so cool happens that it's like, yeah, that's good. giving inspiration to other people. I have 3 inspiration. Can I give one to Orion? Situational, rule of cool. If it would save Orion's life, if there would be some reason for you to do so, etc., etc. But don't view them as a currency that you could just communally spread across the party as needed. Generally, your inspiration die is your own, and you need to use it for your own stuff. If something somebody is doing would be beneficial to your character and maybe the entire group, giving them an inspiration would probably be okay. So advantage and disadvantage. I use flanking, but it does not grant advantage. It just gives you a +2. You need to be 180 of your ally to get it to activate. This means that larger creatures are very easy to flank. Imagine that. Being large in 5e is terrible. Let's see. Abilities, we already talked about. When you're in initiative, you have to roll for all of them, no matter how good your passives are. In my games, we have finally settled after many years on just maximizing the crit dice. So crits are very beefy. If you get hit by a giant and he crits you, it's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. If you are a rogue or a smiting paladin, you will like these critical hit rules a lot. They are bananas. I hate the raw crit rules for 5e. Nothing is more depressing than getting excited that you got a nat 20 and then rolling your damage dice and they all show up as 1s. So by maxing the crit die, you at least get something beefy and cool out of it. So that's what we do with crits. We don't use the Nord Games cards anymore or any of that kind of stuff. Now, I do use from Giphy Glyph's design. There will be bosses that will be very tough, and some of these bosses will telegraph that they are going to like rip your arms off, or that if they hit you, they will break your bones, like stuff like that. So that's how we're going to handle these extreme injuries. Is there's just going to be stuff that's so big and so terrible that it's just going to fuck you up if it hits you. But we're not going to leave that up to a random deck of cards, as fun and spicy as that has been in the past. My moratorium was so full at a certain point that I just was like, we got to stop killing people with these cards. How do we handle stealth? I have a -6 perception score in real life. There could be a person about to kill me right now, and I would not know it. That's how bad my perception is. I have seen people's perception in real life. It's pretty bad. I've snuck up on people, and they, got right up behind them. There are those few people who have retained their caveman senses, and they are pretty perceptive. But for the most part, people are not very perceptive. In 5e, it is well known that most basic bitch monsters and people have a passive perception of like 10 or 11 tops. How do I handle stealth? If you could probably stealth if you needed to. If it's the middle of the day and you're in the middle of a paved street and there's no other people around and there's nothing at all to hide behind, I probably won't allow you to do a stealth check. But for the most part, it's not that hard, especially in a battle where everybody's attention is being drawn everywhere, to roll a stealth check. Now, where it gets a little strict is stealthing and moving. Technically, raw, you can't do anything but stealth, or you break stealth. Ways around that, I would allow rogues. Obviously, they have an ability that allows them to move while stealth. If there was no rogue in the party, I'd probably allow a ranger to move while stealth, because rangers need a lot of reparations. There is, let's see, rangers, rogues, probably a monk. Probably allow a monk to move while stealth. You do move at half your speed when you are stealth, if you are allowed to move and maintain your stealth. If you are not one of those people, you would basically, let's see, Thanlin will demonstrate. I am stealthing behind this tree. I break stealth, I run over here, I don't have enough action economy, but if I did, I would have to use another action to stealth behind that tree. During that time, people would have the general sense that I had run to this other tree. Maybe they don't see me because I did good on my stealth check, but now they can walk over to the tree, look around, and possibly find me. So, yeah. In this example, if you're only hiding behind a tree and Layla comes around the tree, and she's probably going to see you at that point, right? I would still, if it's dark, if there's underbrush, whatever, I would still make her do a search check or give her her passive search check versus your hide check. So she might walk right past you, even though you were hiding behind a tree, because there might be some thicket or bracken or underbrush or whatever that you are hiding in, or you're using the shadows of the tree. Honestly, play hide and seek in real life, and you will understand that it's actually pretty easy to stealth. The rules are, I think, a bit strict for stealthing in 5e in that regard. Let's see. If a person watches you, if their eyes are on you, you can't stealth unless you like go behind an object that breaks line of sight and they can't see you anymore. Even then, they're probably going to know that you're behind the tree. And in the same instances before, Layla's just going to go and say, you're behind the fucking tree, right? So it's an organic game. It's not a video game. So we kind of like play it out how it makes sense for it to play out. All right. Invisibility. What does it mean? Can I not see people if they're invisible? Well, according to Jeremy Crawford, 5e invisibility is more like predator invisibility. So for the most part, you can see where something is. How I will run it is if a character or an enemy is trained in stealth and invisible, I'm gonna say that it's much harder for them to get to discern where you are at. But if a big clunky dude in armor is invisible, everyone's gonna generally know where that guy is. Sorry, that's true. Invisible is still amazing because you can't be targeted by most spells, you can't be the subject of opportunity attacks, and you have advantage to all your attacks, and all attacks against you are at disadvantage. So it's still a very good thing. And if you remain an unknown quantity and maintain stealth, then you should be fine sneaking around while you're invisible. I mean, even somebody in heavy armor, assuming they could make some good stealth checks. As far as like, would you allow them to move and stealth? All the same things still apply. I'd probably want them to be a rogue, a ranger, or a monk. In that instance, though, you know, Thanlin's invisible and he's moving from one hiding spot to another. It's not like they can see him, but they could probably hear him clanking as he, ran from one hiding spot to another, even if he's invisible. All right, traps. This adventure has traps. I use traps. We have consequences that'll pop up during combat that might trigger a trap. For the most part, I do respect your passive investigation or perception if a trap calls for it. Some traps are magical, some traps are situational, some traps are encounters in and of themselves. If you are obsessed with finding and disarming traps, I will probably pick up on that very quickly, and I will make sure to add some extra traps that are easy to find because it's something that you really enjoy. So yeah, but there are going to be traps. It's D&D. It's an old school D&D adventure. There's going to be traps. I'm not going to tell you that we don't use traps. I do feel that if you were going to trap something, you would want it to be at least dangerous enough to overkill a normal person. So you're never going to run into traps that deal like 1d4 damage. A trap is meant to deter somebody from doing something or to stop them from doing something, not to give them a gentle slap on the wrist. So you guys, Blood of Heroes, level 3, you should survive most low-level traps. But the idea is that a common person who opens a poison chest should be killed by the poison inside the chest. That's the idea. They shouldn't feel sick afterwards. Like, ha, you stole all my money, but you're gonna feel bad about it for an hour. That's a terrible trap. So the traps that you do encounter will generally be designed to at least overkill a commoner. So kind of math that out, I guess. All right, any questions about sneakiness and traps? Nope. Okay. Let's see. NPCs. Most D&D groups collect NPCs, like people collect Pokemon. If you collect too many NPCs, it will slow down combat tremendously if they are combat-capable NPCs. It is for that reason that I feel that I should suggest you guys use what's called the B team. So basically, your allies, instead of helping you in combat, they Marvel vs. Capcom style either provide passive buffs or jump in, give you a bonus, and then jump out of the fight. They basically become consumable boons or items that, or summons in some cases, that can help you. In this campaign, specifically, I would recommend it because of the aforementioned big boys that drop heavy AoE. You will lose NPCs very quickly if you bring them into too many of the fights in this campaign. Some of these fights are very tough. They will chew through your NPCs very quickly. If I have determined an NPC is not loved, it will die at 0. If an NPC is important to the story or is cared for enough, it will get to make death saving throws at 0 to prevent dying instantly. But for the most part, if it's just a basic bitch NPC and they're not important and nobody really cares about them, if they get to 0, they're dead. Same thing for bad guys, right? Every basic bitch bad guy, they're just gonna die and that's it. But maybe if you guys killed the boss but you forgot about the boss long enough, I might give the boss a chance to stabilize. You might get a nat 20 and pop up, that kind of thing. Let's see. So that's NPCs. Buying and selling is covered in the world doc, but essentially I'm not here to like play real estate tycoon. I'm not here to fulfill merchant fantasy. So NPC vendors, they're just good at being NPC vendors. That's what they do. So they will buy your beat up, shitty old gear for like 50% of its retail value, and you'll be happy about it, and then we'll move on with our lives, or they just won't buy it. And it's kind of video gamey, but I just don't really like fantasy shopping that much, and I really don't like playing Merchant Simulator. So I'm hoping to play Dungeons & Dragons. Magic items. I don't increase the amount of attunement slots. You get 3 attunement slots. I actually think that the limitation of 3 attunement slots was really smart design on 5th edition's part. Having played D&D since 2nd edition, where I would have to carry a Casey Jones golf bag around full of my magical items and magical swords and all that, it's kind of refreshing that I have to like pick my top 3 and stick with it. It also means that lower level items that don't require attunement are actually very valuable at higher levels. If you can get some good shit out of a magical item without attuning to it, that's actually pretty good value. You will find as you get higher and higher in level. Spells and spell effects. Spell templates are generated by Foundry, and we generally honor Foundry's interpretation of them. That means that line spells are pretty bad. That means that radius spells can be easily abused. Ideally, I would like you to live in a grid-based world and lay your templates down in a grid-based world. If you are so desperate to live and so desperate to succeed that your fireball is not laying on a grid so as to better catch as many people as possible, I mean, there's always another fight to nearly kill your character, so let's just move on with it. Spell abuse, obviously there are combos that are just cheese that we should, like maybe use it once in the whole campaign. Dropping a whale on a house, for example. That's a great example. Yes, you polymorph a loyal NPC into a whale, and you drop them 1,000 feet in the air onto someone's house. It's obviously going to do a lot of damage, but we're not going to play the whole campaign dropping whales on houses. That wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be a cool game.
Man, who would do that?
Yeah, exactly. And other stuff like I trap everyone in a force cage, and then I use the radiation spell to kill them all slowly, and they can't escape. Wah! It's like, cool, that's fun. Should we do that for every fight? Should everybody in the group take Hypnotic Pattern, and we just like Hypnotic Pattern our way through the whole campaign? Like mix it up. You know what I'm saying? Like mix it up a little bit. I'm not saying don't take Hypnotic Pattern. I'm not saying don't use Hypnotic Pattern, but there are certain spells that are just better than others. And there's certain combination of spells that will trivialize a lot of what you guys are doing. And again, it's very easy to break a sandbox. I am not at any like I'm on the 3D6 subreddit and some of these others that's all about like min-maxing and all that kind of stuff. None of this stuff impresses me. It really. Like, it's so easy to break a sandbox, especially 5th edition D&D. Like, what's impressive to me is having a cool character doing legitimately cool shit, like going up against impossible odds, role playing really well, you know, like hero shit. You know what I'm saying? Not cheesy shit, like hero shit. If it is like every fight you're just cheesing the same stuff over and over again, I'll probably talk to you and be like, hey, no one can even fight anymore because you're just like cheesing every fight. Like you gotta like, yeah, we can't be doing this anymore. I guess a follow-up question to that is, how do I feel about Silvery Barbs? I run Silvery Barbs as a second level spell. That's the only nerf that I've done to Silvery Barbs. So I think Silvery Barbs is a very powerful spell. It's a sad feel spell for sure for the Dungeon Master. Certainly as a DM, it would be a dick move for me to give my guys Silvery Barbs, but it does take your reaction. Reactions are pretty important. So, but I did kick it up to be a second level spell if you are interested in Silvery Barbs. Death, Resurrection, and Resting. This campaign, I've said, is pretty brutal. You could die a lot. There aren't many people that can bring you back to life. There is the two big cities each have like temples where people could perform that sort of magic. Beyond that, those are the only two places that your characters would know of at the beginning of the campaign where you could come back to life. Layla, you would know that the druids could probably reincarnate somebody, but they would, you know, make everyone go on a quest or some shit to get that. You have fate points. Every character's going to start with one. A fate point, you drop to 0. You're out of the fight. You got little stars above your head. Whatever. You strategically retreat from the field. Whatever happens, you get buried in rubble. And then after the battle, if you use a fate point, you and I go into secret chat and we talk about what happened in the fight, how you survived, and then I give you 3 terrible choices of things that may have happened to your character as a result of that near-death experience. So there is a sort of sense of diminishing return there where you survived, but at what cost? Maybe you've got like, you know, a dope eye patch now, because that arrow that shot you in the face really did shoot you in the face and almost killed you, and you lost the eye to the process, right? Scars, injuries, setbacks, these are the things that help define a character's growth in a campaign. So, you know, fate points are there to kind of represent you almost died, and this is what you carry with you to prove that you defied death. Now, by 5th level, obviously, you're going to get into them sweet revivifies. The diamond industry is going to start. In this region, you can purchase diamonds from the 2 major cities and also from any dwarven settlements. Those are the only places that you'll be able to purchase diamonds from. Diamonds are too precious for powerful people to leave in the hands of the common folk. So they are more than likely controlled by the churches, and or dwarven like oligarchs and merchants and stuff like that. So you can't just go down to the local shop and get yourself some diamonds. So if you find diamonds as loot, that's kind of a big deal. If your character dies and you want them to come back to life, you will of course play a temporary character or allied NPC character or something until such a time as they're able to bring you back to life. And on resting, I only allow 2 short rests per day, and then and that's it. You get 1 long rest per day. Short rest abuse is a real thing. Everybody wants that critical role experience where you basically get a long rest before every single fight. That's not how 5e was designed. It might be how 5.5e is going to be designed. But 5e was not designed around being able to constantly short and long rest. They wanted you to do a certain number of things before you got a chance to rest. So I did put that restriction on that. So any questions on any of that stuff thus far?
Just comment on the short rest thing. There's the heroic rest, but that's like level gated, isn't it? I think that was in the patch notes.
Yeah. The heroic rest is basically you take 10 minutes to smoke a cigarette, put it out on your forearm, say a prayer to the Raven Queen, and then get back in there, or whatever cool, edgy hero things that you do. But it's that Bruce Willis rest, where you just kind of like you just need to catch your breath. maybe tear a strip of cloth off your shirt and use it to put your ribs back in place. And now you're ready to get back in there. But that's for high level people, but you will access that eventually because this campaign does go to level 12. So, all right. Any other questions about any of that stuff? Because now I got to ask you a couple of mechanical things for the campaign, whether you want to do them or not. And this is where we could use the poll if we have to.
Only other thing, you had mentioned it, desperation, but I think that's probably what's about to be covered, like succeeding at a cost.
Yes. So, succeeding at a cost is a mechanic where you almost did it, but not quite. Some people call it failing into success. There is sort of a variant of it in the DM's guide. You know, the thing that we've all read cover to cover all the time. But Giphy did a very good version of succeed at cost, and then over time, through playtesting, all that, we have made our own tables for it, which are relevant to the style of game that we play and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, if you come close but not close enough to a roll, you could ask, was I close enough to succeed at a cost? If you were, you will succeed, but then we will roll on a table and see what happens to you. It could be anything from gaining a point of exhaustion, losing a hit die, falling prone. It could be, very bad for you, losing half your health. It's just totally random. 20 different results of what could happen. Overall, it's been widely successful. Most of the people that I've played with really love it. People that are more math-centric, people that want to be able to sort of like stare at the fight. After like one round, they get a general sense for all the numbers. They don't like it because it does add so much randomness to the battle, because you weren't supposed to be able to hit this guy and then you did, but then in the process you caused all of us to get knocked down, that kind of stuff. But the majority of people who have tried it really enjoy it. Nothing sucks more than waiting for your turn and then you roll and you miss, or if you had made that save, you wouldn't be at 0 health right now and you get to keep playing the game. Or you wouldn't be turned to stone, or you wouldn't be completely taken out. We don't allow succeed at a cost on death saving throws. That's just kind of a it is what it is situation. Succeed at a cost has 2 different tables, one for in initiative and one for out of initiative, that have different results. So you can succeed out of initiative, but you'll suffer, I believe, steeper penalties than if you were in initiative. We also use boons. So if you are making a d20 roll while in initiative, you have to be in initiative. If you get a nat 20, you get a boon. So it's one of 20 different results on a table. Boons can be very beneficial. You do not get a boon on a critical hit because you're already getting max damage dice for your crit damage. So it's already a pretty good experience. So you don't need a boon on top of that. And then we have complications. So in initiative, if anybody rolls a natural 1, even if it's for a skill check or saving throw and you still succeed, the rolling of that nat 1 triggers a complication. So that's just something that happens on the battlefield that changes the way the battle is happening. Sometimes it will target the person who rolled the 1, sometimes it targets someone randomly, sometimes it's just something that happens to the battlefield. Overall, those succeed at cost things have done a good job of replacing like the Nord Games cards that we used to use without slowing things down too much and without overcomplicating things. And they allow people who are very unlucky at dice rolls to basically destroy themselves succeeding, which is kind of like epic and heroic in its own right, to see someone just ruining themselves to get those hits in on the boss. I don't know. It's been very cool. So that's the succeed at a cost stuff. Overall, I was just gonna make that kind of non-negotiable because I've gotten so used to having that. Is anybody opposed to the succeed at a cost system and mechanics? No? Okay. All right. Let's see. take you back to this map because we're just kind of hanging out in the campsite here. So the other things I was going to ask about is initiative. Two types of initiative that I use. One is called popcorn initiative or active initiative. It can be a bit complicated. It can be a bit slow. It's a weird kind of slow. It's like it takes longer, but it doesn't feel longer, if that makes sense. Because you're a lot more engaged with what's happening in the fight. With active initiative, you could take your turn, pass to the next person, the round ends, and they immediately pass back to you. So it's a lot different than the standard turn-based initiative where you attack, and then you have your wireless headset, you run downstairs to grab a drink and make a sandwich because you know it's going to take just that long, and you're going to run back, and then it's going to be your turn again. There are benefits to both ways of doing it. It's easier to plan around a static initiative, a traditional initiative, because you know this person's always going to go first in the round, and this person's always going to go here, and this is always going to happen. Active / popcorn initiative is much more dynamic. Basically, anytime somebody is damaged, they have an opportunity to steal the initiative, and they can then start going. So you shoot the boss, like you guys win initiative, but your allies are in a bad position at the start of the fight because maybe, you know, like the guy popped out of his coffin or something like that, and you guys are in melee with him or close enough that he could really mess you up if he has a breath weapon or something like that. If Barnabas won initiative and he just shot the dude in the face, that dude then immediately steals the initiative, breathes his breath weapon on all your allies. But maybe Barnabas says, "Oh shit, that guy's a dragon. You got to get out of there," and then he gets into a good position, readies an action to take his shot, and then passes to Guy, who gets out of the way, who passes to Jert, who runs up on the dude to kind of like draws attention, or maybe runs to the other side of the guy. So now AoE is less of an option because which way am I going to shoot it? I didn't get to catch everybody in one clump. And then Layla is going to move out of the way and go into star form and start dropping buffs on everybody. So that first round of combat suddenly turns from, oh, we just got nuked by this Dragon's Breath weapon, to the party scatters, gets ready for the fight, and then round 2 rolls around, and you guys are better prepared for the fight. So it can be very, very rewarding, and it can be very satisfying because you can kind of set each other up better for combos and things like that. If you were a grave cleric, I don't think you'd ever want to play any style of D&D besides active initiative, because all their stuff is about being set up for things. Like a person's at 0, now pass to me and I'll get them up, and I don't have to wait around and hope that they are still alive by the time my turn comes around to drop that max heal, or their setup move where they curse somebody and then they take double damage from the next attack. You guys could use active initiative to make sure that the next attack is the right person who's going to drop that huge hit. So it's a lot more tactical, it's a lot more interactive, but in my experience, full disclosure, it does lead to a longer combat. And this is a combat-heavy game, so this campaign. There are a lot of combats in this campaign. So it could be very fun to play these combats with active initiative, but they might run a bit longer than if we just use static initiative. So you guys could definitely discuss amongst yourselves your feels about it. I'll post a poll real quick, and we'll kind of let it go from there.
I'm all for it. I don't use it. I've never used it before, really. But I have one question about it, which is like, obviously you want to avoid in-talking and table talking. How much time is there really should be allowed for like discussing a plan within a round? Obviously things.
So that's kind of the fun thing about popcorn initiative, active initiative, is there's a certain leeway for tactics and strategy. And how do we justify this? All right, so your characters live in this world 24/7. They traveled 8 hours to get from point A to point B. One would hope that during that 8 hours, they maybe talked about their abilities in combat and techniques and combos and stuff like that. We only get to see these people once a week for a very limited amount of time. They are with each other constantly. They're companions, right? So a certain amount of meta talk makes sense to sort of fill in the gaps where your characters would have had time to practice and, you know, set up these combat moves and discuss like, oh, my spell with this would work great, or your ability with that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we do allow that table talk when we're using active initiative, popular initiative. But going back to player agency, you have to be willing to let people make bad moves, and you have to be willing to let people make in-character moves that would not be the best tactical moves.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we do. Yeah. So that's a great question about it.
My suggestion is we are a 6-man party. That will already bring us down on time. And we do have a beast heart as well. I've never tried active initiative. I would like to try it, but under the stipulation that we probably, as Crash has reiterated, will take longer. I mean, I'm playing a bard. I would love to be able to buff somebody before they know they're about to go, or wherever I buff, I can just hand it off to them. But if we're already 6 men, 7 with the pet, I can completely understand wanting to do static.
Yeah, and full disclosure, for me, it's much easier just to do static. I mean, running static as a DM is like a dream. But it is so much more exciting and interesting, I feel, to have that active initiative because we do get a lot more variation of gameplay and a lot more, a lot of just strategic kind of power plays. So that's why I wouldn't even have made the offer if I wasn't willing to run it, right? I would have just said, hey, this is a Saturday game. I'm going to be tired on a Saturday morning. I don't want to keep track of no active initiative. But it is cool enough, and there are some cool fights in this adventure that I am curious to see if active initiative would make them even cooler. But like Ark said, if we're finding it to just be too frustrating, too tedious, some people just don't like it. I've had players that I thought they would love it, and they hated it. Like Odyssey Prime, like we can't use it. Like they hate it. And there's some I thought that they would really enjoy it. So yeah. All right. Looks like we're gonna try it. If we try it and we don't like it, we'll revisit it. Normally we kind of revisit rules at every milestone. So when we hit milestones, I'll kind of check in on everybody and be like, hey, what's going on? How are we liking things? That sort of thing. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, just to piggyback on that. I wanted to try the Beast Heart class, so I will try my best to not slog things down.
I don't think it'll be too bad, but I haven't seen one in play. I've only ever seen a Beastmaster Ranger.
Yeah.
In 5e, and she was in a 6-person group, and it still moved. I felt it still moved pretty quick. And you also keep in mind that even though we're doing active initiative, your animal still shares your initiative. So it's not like we have that extra body on top of everything else.
Right.
And further, because you have 6 people, you would expect in Red Handed Doom that you're going to fight a shitload of guys, right? A shitload of goblins. I am very much going to be leaning into swarms in this campaign to represent that you were fighting a lot of things, but then not having a lot of things on the, to track. So you might start out fighting individual gerblins, and then you've got gerblins riding in the backpacks of ogres, and you've got gerblins that are on like a howdah on the back of like a troll or something.
It becomes clown cars.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna treat the unit as its own monster, but it will represent that you were fighting many monsters. Does that make sense? That's kind of the technique I'm using this campaign to try and speed that up. As written, there's encounters where it's like 32 bad guys. 32 bad guys, even in a fixed initiative, that's a lot of bad guys. So yeah, we're gonna be looking for ways to sort of condense our bad guys into squadrons, essentially, like little hit crews, that kind of thing. Which I think will be pretty fun. If you've played the old school Dungeons & Dragons side-scrolling arcade game, you may recall there were some gerblins that had like a death chariot that they rode around in. So I'm thinking like shit like that would be kind of cool too, giving them just like little war machines that they're in and stuff like that to kind of give you guys like bigger, tougher monsters comparable to your level, but you're still fighting a bunch of goblins. Would be kind of cool.
The counterpoint to myself would have been also, because we are 6 players, it would take a lot of time in a static initiative between turns, and making it active would have us be more active.
Yeah. In a 6-person group, I could easily, in a fixed initiative, I'll know exactly when to get back to my computer. So I'll go like start the dishes, maybe walk the dog. Like depending on how many bad guys there are, you can kind of gauge like, oh, it's gonna be 20 minutes till my turn comes back around. But with this initiative, you have no idea when the different bad guys are going to go, when your character is going to be in danger or not in danger, or when your turn's going to come back up again. So,
I do also want to say I'm actually using it in 2 of the campaigns I'm running, and I actually found it to make combat faster.
really?
Yeah,
Huh.
it shaved off about 20 minutes of the average hour and a half when it comes to like an equivalent CR fight.
Damn.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to pick your brain at some point because
I think
maybe
it might
it's
be depending on
yeah.
the players and like whether or not they know their kit that they're using, because it could
Mhm.
the amount of deliberation time still exists. That takes a lot of time. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm mostly going off of games that I've run where compared to fixed initiative where it just felt like fixed moved. When I looked at the clock and saw the fight was over, it moved faster, but mostly the active combats I've run have felt faster. Like you're like, oh man, what was that? Like a 30-minute fight? It's like, no, it was 2 hours. Yeah, but it felt like it moved faster because there was that constant shifting and changing of who was going and passing that initiative back and forth. So, all right, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh no, I was just
Yeah.
taking a strange breath. Yeah.
It might be speculation, but I think a big factor in that is the ratio of spellcasters to marshals, where I feel like spellcasters in this active initiative, can't necessarily plan a spell course as easily as in static initiative, where it's like you know who's coming before you, so you kind of have an idea of what's going to be left for you on your turn.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to be paying attention, because the parameters of the battlefield are going to change so much more quickly in active initiative. So you knew you had that fireball placed perfectly, and then suddenly it's not. And also the addition of consequences and stuff like that, or complications, excuse me. One of the complications is just the whole battle, everybody shifts like a couple of spaces to the left or the right, and then that could change quite a few things. So yeah, it's designed to basically take some of the staleness out of 5e combat that, especially if you've been playing it since it came out, you might start to feel like you've done it all. So this helps infuse it with a bit more excitement. So
Oh yeah, every time I see that sudden shift come up on Prime, I clench a little bit.
yeah. It feels like it comes up a lot.
It does.
3 times
yeah.
in one combat, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm excited about trying that out. All right, let me go ahead and grab some different music here. Let's see. All right, yeah. I've been really feeling that Final Fantasy 12 soundtrack lately. It's like because the game was designed to be an MMO you played by yourself. There was a lot of grinding, so all the music was designed that you could listen to it for a very long time and not get tired of it. Plus, that Final Fantasy Tactics team was on board, or what was left of them, so it was pretty nice. Okay. Any other questions before we jump into the actual campaign, Red Hand of Doom? I was hoping that would go 2 hours or less. We're a little bit over, but maybe we didn't start until 10:10 or something. So pretty good for session 0. We got it all out of the way. But any questions?
Super important question.
Mhm.
Should I spec a murderous Tinkerbell at all, at any point?
Should you do a murderous Tinkerbell?
I expect that.
Should you spec as one?
expect.
Oh, expect. Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear you with the static on your line. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's definitely gonna be fairy assassins. The old school trick of like the pixies turning everybody into animals with their polymorph. Yeah, you're gonna see like a couple of gerblins, and then suddenly they're gonna be tyrannosaurs. It's gonna be amazing. So yeah, definitely expect all that nastiness.
So chaos.
Yeah, I am gonna be deep diving into the Kobold Press Monster manuals because they have some really good Fey creatures in there. So I'm very excited. All right. So outside of all of that, are there any other questions about that would be a session 0 question, or do you guys feel pretty confident about your place in the world and all that? Do you want a quick Foundry like thing, or is everybody good on Foundry?
This is my first time using it, but I've been kind of familiarizing myself with it over the last week.
Okay, so the little World of Warcraft bar at the bottom, you could drag anything to that, and it will then be a button that you could use, which is a nice shortcut feature. Another shortcut feature is when you select your miniature, you will see somewhere on the screen your name and some sort of grayish black boxes with words in it. That is a sort of interactive menu that accesses the majority of the stuff you could do on your character sheet. So between that and the bar at the bottom, you don't actually have to go into your character sheet all that often, but you can of course double click to go into it. We are using pop out. Your mileage may vary on pop out. Some people think it's great, some people like half their stuff doesn't work. On your character sheet there is something called resources. This would be a great place to put in your fate points and other things like that. You can access more of those things by going to the gear that says sheet at the top of your character sheet, clicking on it, and then there's a resource count. You can have, I believe, up to 20 different custom resources. So whatever you want to use this to track, you could do so. Anything on your character sheet, you can right click and favorite it, and then it will show up on the front page of your character sheet. So if there's things that you just do all the time, you could favorite them so they're always on the front of your character sheet. You don't have to go hunting them down and searching for them. At the top of your character sheet, next to the close button, there should be something that says companions. This is pretty dope. If you click that, a little window will appear. You could drag your Pokemon onto that, and then when you want to summon them, you could just open up that companions tab, select the minion, click on the map, and then they will appear onto the map, which is pretty fun if you have a Pokemon, you know, like Orion. Let's see, what else? Trying to think of anything else. Oh, so there will be special effects that happen because it's Foundry and we have DAE and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, since I got on Foundry pretty early, I have a lot of stuff in my compendium that is not modernized yet. Some of it might even be broken. So when you're looking for things with quick inserts and in the compendiums, you might find like 15 different longswords or something like that. My apologies on that. So if your character's ever acting wonky or whatever, one of the first things that we would check is the effects tab, see what kind of effects are going on, and then sort of adjust them as needed. Foundry 9 is very good, so armor class should be working properly. If you are a class that uses non-standard math, like a monk or a barbarian, you would want to click on that little armor thing and make sure that it's set to the correct armor calculation for your class. Druids with wild shape, and anybody that's polymorphing, Foundry does have a polymorphing tool built in. Through trial and error, through playing the game, me and my groups have just kind of found it's easiest to just hide your normal character, and then we just pull out another monster that you have control of. Then you can kind of see both your stat blocks if you need information from one or the other. Maybe you're in beast form, but you want to plan around not being in beast form anymore. So it's just, easier to have both minis on the board, and you can just kind of click on the one that you need to access that sheet instead of having the two sheets mashed into one Frankenstein kind of creature. If you are a Foundry Sage and you like the wild shape functions, I have left them on, so you could certainly do so. But my recommendation is just drag out your polymorphs and your shape changes and your alternate forms onto a separate miniature. If you right-click on your miniature, you will see there's an AFK button. So if you are going AFK, you could mark yourself AFK, so we know you went AFK. There is also, for some of you, if you've given me more than one character art, you can go and click the little circle around the person, and then that will show you some of your alternate forms or alternate miniatures if you've sent in extra stuff for that. That can always grow through gameplay, so don't worry about that if you don't have it set up just yet. Dice so nice. All right, so when we're rolling dice, there's a dice tray at the bottom of the screen. When we're over on the fist tab, which is the second tab there. Did that grind out anybody else's screen when I rolled that?
No.
No? Okay. So I picked out these very fancy dice, but they're from a mod, and I think they're kind of fucking with my settings. So I'm going to go ahead and change them out. So to change your dice, you're going to go to Configure Settings, and you're going to look under Module Settings for Dice So Nice. And then there's something called My Dice, and this is where you could go and change your dice to be basically anything you want. There's so many different options for dice. And I have a lot of mods. I think they're going to show up for everybody. I don't know for sure. Let's see. But yeah, basically you can go through, pick out dice that kind of match your playstyle. And there's all sorts of settings that you could do for them as well. All right, cool. Oh, the other thing is we use a character sheet called Tidy Sheets. So under Settings, you could go to Tidy Sheets, and there should be an option to turn on Dark Mode for your sheets if you are a Dark Mode person. Which I am. My eyeballs, I look at computer screen most of the time that I'm awake, so any chance I have for dark mode, I want it. And let's see, what else? Everything else with Foundry, we could probably just teach you as we go, but those are kind of the main things to keep an eye on. All right, and then the calendar, for some reason it reset on me again, so let me fix that real quick. It says it's the right one.
Goodbye, Crash. Did I lose everyone else too? Or you
No,
all
I'm
still
here. I hear you.
No, I'm still here.
In the butt.
Yeah, I'm still
We
here.
lost Crash.
When the bot goes too, that's how you know Crash is gone.
Oh god.
Teacher's gone.
It was a bear.
Sounding bird.
Just a recommendation while I've got you guys. For the Tidy Sheet 5e, even if you don't like your dark theme and all that, there is actually an option to toggle empty traits. I do that because the bottom left, a lot of us don't have dark vision, a lot of us don't have damage resistances, and it will just condense it all into only things that you have.
Is that up?
It is under the Tidy Sheet 5e module settings.
Oh, in the module settings. Okay.
Yep. So once you're under module settings, you go to Tidy 5e sheet, and then you'll find a thing for sheet settings. And in there, you can adjust those.
There it is.
Actually, I was going to ask a question. So are we doing straight 4 hours? Is that the case? I don't think there's a break, right? Or are we doing one?
Usually we have a bio break. In all the games that I've played with Crash, I took the opportunity during the Foundry kind of breakdown, but they're usually about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Okay. I'd recommend right now, while he's booting back up, be the time.
Yeah. I was wondering if there would be how long the break would be, whether or not I had time to step out.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually, sometimes I remind him, or he usually does it on his own. A thing to note is that if something does happen, I'm sure you've seen it. If you just right-click your token, There is a thing that says AFK, and it's a little thing that you can click and toggle to say if you're AFK. Or I'm sure Crash remember that already. But
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then I'm gonna step outside for a second. I'll be right back.
that's good.
Okay. Links in the chat is saying that Crash had said that he was rebooting.
Yeah, he put in the chat that he crashed his computer.
Yeah.
There
So
he is.
when I run a game, I usually have Photoshop open in case I have to like make assets at the same time. And then yeah, so I was like recording pretty high res locally with Streamlabs, and then I had that open in the background, and this I didn't restart after like the prep I did this morning. I think I just killed the poor computer. So I'm gonna give it a chance to try to recuperate here real quick.
Maybe if it has so many things, you can always just throw Foundry onto like medium or low performance mode.
Yeah, I might record because mostly for the recording, you just need to see, you need to hear what's going on and kind of see what's going on, but you don't need to see like super high res like everything that's going on. So I might do a lower recording for that. So
Yeah, I started killing a bunch of background programs before I started streaming.
90% of the Dungeons and Dragons I watch, I'm just listening to like in my pocket.
yeah.
Podcasts.
Well, I've had people that wanted to see like like how is this encounter run and things like that.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I work at the post office, so Google Podcast is basically the only way I ever get to handle media.
Oh, yeah. I used to
I'm in
be
a car,
I used to be a
6
baker.
hours a day.
Oh yeah, geez. Yeah, I used to be a baker and working overnights. And if only we had had all the cool media then to like listen to overnights. I was all audiobooks for me, but to have all these cool podcasts and like actual plays and yeah. So all right, I think I've almost got it back up and running here.
Really quick, this is probably a good time. How do our breaks work?
Oh, so normally everybody forgets to take a break. But yeah, all my games are supposed to have breaks. We very rarely remember to take them. But ideally, if we're at the midpoint, kind of like right now, and there would have been a good chance for a break, we'd take like a 10-minute break. But frequently, we're usually having so much fun that we forget, which is probably an unhealthy work ethic as a DM because breaks are good. And then some people need that break to check on things or use the restroom or whatever.
Or step away from intense scenes or something.
Yeah. So I'll try to remember. And if people who like breaks want to remind me like, hey, maybe time for a break. That's good too. Again, I got like really bad ADHD, so once I'm in something and I'm enjoying it, like I'll completely lose track of time and place and all that kind of stuff. So I'll very rarely ask for a break myself unless I actually need to step away for something. All right. So we got that. And move that over here. Yeah, I didn't realize just how much stuff I had set up for this to crash on me. All
Well,
right.
obvious name pun.
Yeah. Let's see. So more than likely, I'll have to reboot the game as well, because when the DM gets booted from Foundry, it could be a little weird. But I'll try logging in and we'll see. I might be able to just refresh and then that'll resync me with everybody.
Yeah, it does say you're still in.
Yeah, which is the tricky part, because I'll start interacting with stuff and you guys won't see it, and vice versa. So, do you guys see me long clicking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good sign. All right. Let's see.
Move my token around. See if that
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
You knew which one was me. It's a good sign.
Oof. I don't have all of my drag functionality set up properly. I'll definitely have to add that to my list of things to do between now and next session. Drag settings. Okay. All right. Let me see. Is MusicBot back up?
I don't hear it, but
Okay.
I can see it's green. Which means it's playing something beautiful, but we don't hear it.
All right. Let's see. How about now?
There we go.
Yep.
All right. Great.
Much better.
All right, so looks like everything's back up and running. Hopefully things don't crash again on us, and everybody was able to get good break. We still got Jert and Layla that are AFK, so we'll give them a chance to get back from the break. I think I was in the middle of fixing the calendar when it just decided to shit the bed. All right, so technically, this is supposed to start on Friday, April 2nd in the year 576. Which is what the calendar says, but then it also there it goes. It updated. All right, cool.
Is the day supposed to be Luthien 34.99?
No. Yeah. So if you click on it now, maybe it'll show
April
Wednesday.
2nd.
Yeah, but now it's saying it's a Wednesday. I'd say calendar is probably the thing I've struggled with the most in Foundry.
I can concur.
Yeah. Which was a shame because I was very excited about it because I feel like nothing really does a better job of kind of cementing the mundanity of being in like a real world than having to keep track of the calendar and the time and all that jazz. So we will do it the old-fashioned way. I'll put another note to fix calendar, and we'll just track it on paper. So let's see. Start things off on a Friday, April 1st.
The world's greatest April Fool's joke.
I'm so glad that day is over. Terrible. Not that I don't like a good prank now and then, but it just gets out of hand sometimes. It's a lot of hand.
2022 was a really big April Fool's joke anyway, so...
Right.
Yeah.
It's all fun and
The joke that never ended.
right.
We're
It's all
still
fun
living it
and
now.
games It's all fun and games till someone saran wraps the toilet.
Yeah. So, or the frozen disc of pee. That one's always good. So, you pee on
Welcome back,
a
Jert.
paper plate, freeze it. You just slide that disc of pee under a door or something. That's terrible. Yeah, you know, when there would be
Oh,
prank
man.
wars in college at the dormitories. Yeah.
I was super
That's
out of
next
context.
level.
No. Yeah, we were trading recipes. You know what I'm saying? Because cooking character.
I got a book
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
So, I'm gonna hit this record button for local, and I hope to God it doesn't like shit the bed again.
One last thing. Dom actually brought up a decent question. Long rest sanctuaries.
Yes. That would be a great. Yeah, that would have been a good thing to cover. Is like, how difficult do you guys want this? Would be a good question. Ways that you could make your game even more difficult. Here we go. Do we have everybody back yet? Looks like we're still.
Layla's
Wait.
still up.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe Haranzo doesn't know their Layla. It's the first time playing the character. Haranzo, are you there? No? Okay. Well, I'll give you the broad sweeps, and then I think they've been playing and DMing enough, they probably know where this is going. But here are ways that you can make your game way more difficult. The first one is anytime you drop to 0, you get a point of exhaustion. Now, in practice, this has been really fucking rough. An adjustment I would make to that is you get exhaustion for the rest of the fight, caveat. So you would gain a point of temporary exhaustion, but it would still count towards the total that would eventually kill you. What this does is it punishes like 5e's yo-yo healing, the yo-yo style play where you're down and then you're up again, you're down, you're up again. By making it every time you get knocked down, you have a little bit more trouble getting up. So it's not Captain America, I could do this all day. It's Captain America, I could do this till I get, I believe, 4 or 5 stacks of exhaustion, and then I have a 0 speed and I can't get up from prone. Like, that's kind of the situation. I think that's very, very hard. It's very hard. We played through Rime of the Frost Maiden with that, and I think we actually did real. No, we did temporary exhaustion. But yeah, it was still pretty rough, because exhaustion is very hard stats effect, especially at those higher stacks. So that's one way to make it harder. Another way to make it harder is meat grinder saving throws. This is something that originated with Tomb of Annihilation. So your saving throws against death are a 15 or higher, not a 10 or higher.
Yeah.
Yeesh. That's super hard. There's also in that same vein, lingering failed death saves. So if you fail a death save, it's there until you long rest. So if you keep dropping to 0 and yo-yoing, you don't want to stay there, because every failed death save stays with you until you get that long rest. We played with that in Rime and then also in Mythic, and it is very scary. It definitely makes dropping to 0 pretty rough. I wouldn't recommend having that and the exhaustion at 0, because you're already being penalized at 0 pretty hard. Another way to increase the challenge, this campaign would not support week-long long rest, so I'm not even going to mention that one, but long resting only being available in Sanctuary, and then a third short rest, which is also camping if you can't find a Sanctuary. So you gain the benefits of camping, you get the benefits of a short rest, but you would only be able to long rest inside a Sanctuary. And a Sanctuary is basically a town or anywhere that the DM says, like, oh, this place is safe enough to be a Sanctuary. So, like, a walled off part of the dungeon that, you know, obviously has been abandoned for centuries might count as a Sanctuary. Being given, like, a safe place by some friendly fae in the Witchwood, that might count as a Sanctuary. Things like that. So that one is kind of cool, and it does make you manage your resources a lot better, because it's that much harder to get that long rest in. It certainly benefits monks, fighters, and warlocks quite a bit because of the whole short being built around short rests. So those are all ways that you could make things you know, harder. So I will throw up a poll real quick to see if you guys want to make things any more difficult.
I think I'd be concerned with the long rest sanctuary thing, because as you pointed out earlier, it gets really hectic in the campaign, and I would hate for us to have to purposely avoid like plot, because we're like, well, mechanically we literally can't do this, so we have to go back to town now.
Oh, which is why we had to adjust these things as they leveled up in Mythic Odyssey, because there's just a point where it was just not sustainable anymore.
Yeah, I think it was like early levels you guys were doing it, and then kind of later on, not as much.
Yeah, like narratively, we just kind of made it that you're just stronger than you were before. You know, like you've mastered your magic, so you don't have spell burnout anymore. You've overcome like so much stuff. You're starting to actually become the heroes that you were prophesized to be. So like story-wise, it kind of worked out that their earlier days were much harder, and then they literally proved themselves through their trials and became stronger. Which is an option as well, if you really want to drive home how hard being low level is versus how hard high levels are. But if everybody's okay with it just as it is, which I think this campaign is pretty hard by itself, we don't need to have any of those things. So
That was my opinion. We already have active initiative.
Yeah. Okay, that works
I'm
for me
fine.
then. Sorry, Dom. They will not be victimized by your terrible Giphy Glyph rules. They will instead be
Ooh,
victimized by terrible Giphy Glyph monsters. Yeah. So maybe Dom can make some of the monsters for this campaign. He's very good at making very hard boss monsters.
Oh no.
We're going down the toddler path, but not quite the baby path.
Right.
We're at least in kindergarten.
Yeah. Hey, listen. We're here to have fun. Some people want more or less challenge to their fun. Some people want Elden Ring, and some people just want to play Skyrim again for the 40th time. You know? 'Cause
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elden Ring is not that bad, okay, guys? Come on.
Hey,
I just
this-
started playing it last week. It's pretty bad. I love it, but damn.
Hey, I've
Alright.
never played a Souls game, so it's been
Probably
interesting.
the most accessible one, though.
I
Probably
think
is.
we're already in such a terrible strait that adding more onto our fire does not make this any better.